Okay, so we're going to have half an hour Mishlei, and the second half, Be'ezrat Hashem, Yoshua. We are not going to cover a lot of ground, because it's text-based, and we want to basically, Be'ezrat Hashem, to get a little bit deeper to the meaning of the, just not to read and pass on. So we started last week Sefer Mishlei, and Mishlei Shlomo ben David Melech Israel. So we saw that Shlomo Melech, we know he was 12 years old. HaKadosh Baruch Hu asked him what he wants, and he asked for Chokhmah, for wisdom. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him not only wisdom, he gave him a lot of other blessings, but he was considered Chacham Ba'adam. And we spoke the wisest of human beings ever. Right? Moshe Rabbeinu, we said, Moshe Rabbeinu in his prophecy was higher than Shlomo HaMelech. But Shlomo HaMelech was, and because he had divine intellect that was granted to him. So he was, every word that we have in all his 3 books are divinely inspired. It's not the words of Hashem, we spoke about it last week. But it was, every word has been written with the divine inspiration. And in Mishlei, right, he uses a lot of allegories, Mishalim, to teach us his lessons. And Rabbi Chaim says that Mashal, he says the most effective tool for teaching is to use allegories and Mishalim. That's why I try in all my classes to have a lot of stories, and because Shlomo HaMelech learns from his father. David HaMelech says in Tehillim, Ateh lemashal ozni. Whenever you have a good allegory, you have a good story, everybody listens, and you could give the message in the most effective way. Especially, I always tell people, when Friday nights or Shabbat meals are really central to Judaism. Shabbat altogether, but Shabbat meals specifically, that makes the Jewish nation. Just sitting together and eating gondi and this and that, this bonding together on Shabbat, it's everything. That's why, Bereshit Genesis has 2 meanings. One is Beit Rosh, household family is priority number 1. And also, the same word is Shabbat Yerah. You should observe, you should keep Shabbat properly. When Shabbat is kept properly, it's really that's a genesis, that creates a Jewish nation. And part of it's because when we bond, when we eat together, we bond. When we eat together, we bond. The best bonding happens by eating together.
Breaking bread.
One, breaking bread together, right? The Gemara says that Gedolah milugma shemekarevet, that says eating together. We see that Yitro, Moshe Rabbeinu's father-in-law, how did he make the shidduch? Call him to come break bread. Breaking bread made the family, right? So, but you see, it has to be used. The Shabbat meals have to be used wisely, right? And the way to do it is it's a lot of bonding, etc. But at the same time, it's to give Divrei Torah. But the Divrei Torah it cannot be. It has to be to transmit the message in an effective way that everybody would listen, especially kids. And stories are great for that. Through a story, you could give a message like nothing else. Just, I don't know if I shared it with you this today. I had a couple preparing them for their marriage. So I told them, the chuppah, under the chuppah is the holiest moments of your life. I want to get mileage out of it, they should be dressed properly under the chuppah. So I told them, and it's a true story, and then maybe I shared it with you last week, that a week before, a week and a half before, I had another couple, told him the same thing about the chuppah, and I told him, you should know, would believe that under the chuppah, I always tell them, a lot happens there you cannot see. A lot happens under the chuppah that you cannot see. And when the Chatan gives, why do we use use a ring for getting married? Really, according to Torah, he gives her a flower that has a minimal value of 10 cents, 25 cents, they're married. If he gives her a gift and she accepts it, that's it. There's husband and wife. Why we use a ring? Because when he says the sentence and says the blessing, a halo from the soul of the Chatan goes around the Kala and vice versa. And since this is a round thing, that's one of the reasons. We don't see it, but it happens. And we use the ring. One of the reasons we use the ring is for that. And I tell them that in at least 4 generations back, you have all the souls present under the chuppah. Because the pasuk says, "Yismach Yisrael be'osav." So when I told them that, and I was telling this to the couple today, so I told them last time, a week ago, when I was into another couple, the guy, he wasn't, not somebody from our community, not religious. All of a sudden, he looked at me, and he said, "Wow." I said, "What happened?" He said, in their family, he said, his nephew, I think, 8, 10, 9 years old, a couple of years ago, he was in his room, and all of a sudden he said, somebody is here. They went to the room, didn't see anybody. So they were thinking, okay, probably imagination, whatever. So then they were going through, family albums and pictures. So he pointed out to the picture of his grandfather that he had never seen. And he said, this is the one that was in the room. Wow. So they realized that the grandfather's apparently neshama had appeared. And then, sometime later, they had a wedding, and the same boy, he pointed out to his father, the grandfather is holding the chuppah. So this is exactly what I told them, that we have this belief that the neshamot are there. So you see, this story, it's a story, but it really hits home. You see that it's a reality, right? That you say, okay, Ismach Yisrael be'osav, the pasuk says. Ismach Yisrael be'osav, when we have a simcha, we have all your makers there. Under the chuppah, you have Hashem, opens all the heavens, and you have your ancestors. So now you have a story that solidifies the message. So that's why Shlomo HaMelech gives his life lessons, very short lessons, very effective, through Mishalim. Because Rabbi Bachaya says, imagine somebody is in a dark, another mashal, right? Imagine somebody's in a dark jungle, it's all dark, and he lost his diamond ring. Can't find it. And all of a sudden, there is he was able to strike a match, and that little light that the match gave, and it's going to last just for it, he was able to find it. So he says, this is the koach of mashal. The mashal could be a very short story, but it's like that little light that lightens the darkness, and you find the mess, you find the lost item. So this is Mishlei. The mem of Mishlei, the letter is always written bigger. Numerical value of mem is 40. So Yalkut Shimoni says that Shlomo HaMelech, similar to Moshe Rabbeinu, 40 days and 40 nights he didn't eat, right? When he was on top of the mountains, one of the miracles that the Torah tells us, that no human being, that shows what level Moshe Rabbeinu had reached, that this human being lived like an angel for 40 days, the Torah says. Moshe Rabbeinu did not eat, did not sleep, right? He was elevated to a very, very high level, right, of nevuah that no other human being could reach. So that was 40 days. Here also, the Midrash says that Shlomo HaMelech, before writing Sefer Mishlei, fasted for 40 days. similar to that 40 days of Moshe Rabbeinu, to get this divine inspiration to write this book. And it starts, Mishlei Shlomo ben David Melech Israel. So Mishalim we understand now, Shlomo ben David Melech Israel. He's introduced as Shlomo ben David, the son of David, and then Melech Israel, the king of Israel. Every word is counted, and we have two pshatim, Gaon and Malbim, explain why this introduction. Why Shlomo ben David, Melech Israel. Gaon divides up the book of Mishlei into three parts. He says from the first chapter, Aleph, right? He says from till Tet, the first 9 chapters that Be'ezrat Hashem Yitbarach we're going to be learning, it's talking about, right, Chokhmah. Right? Chokhmah, it's like wisdom. Then we're going to have from Yud till Kaf Dalet, from 10 to 24, it's going to be talking about Musar, right, ethics. And then from Kaf Hey, from 25 till the end of the book, right, till the end of the book of Mishlei, which is, how many? It's, I think, Lamed Aleph. Like in 31 chapters, from 25 till the rest, the book is divided 3 parts. Right, from Aleph, from first perek till the 9th, from 10th to 24th, and then 24th till 31, it's going to be talking about Torah. It's Chokhmah, Musar, and Torah. It's scientifically divided. And each one of these 3 is going to start with the Mishlei, and Chokhmah, Musar, and Torah. And very appropriately, Shlomo HaMelech gives a title to all 3. Chokhmah is Shlomo. Right? That's why it says Shlomo ben David Melech Israel. Shlomo is parallel to the first 9, that is Chokhmah. Who is the Chacham Ba'adam? We said it's Shlomo HaMelech. The Kadosh Baruch Hu gave him that divine wisdom. So it's that's why it says Shlomo. Then from the second part of the book, which is Musar, it's David. Because David HaMelech is the Ish Musar. He is the man of ethics. As we see in the entire Sefer Tehillim. I've been teaching Tehillim for maybe 14 years now, 14, 15 years. Every Wednesday morning to ladies. It's all about that Ish Musar. That's why Ben David. And then the last part, which is Torah, it's Melech. The Jewish king, he's the one that really takes all the teachings of the Torah and he brings it into practice in daily life, right? By ruling and managing the Jewish nation in practice. That theory of Torah is put in practice. That's why it says Melech. So very appropriately, now we understand why it starts Mishlei Shlomo ben David Melech Yisrael. Malbim teaches us that the person could attain wisdom in life through different sources. Right? He says one is Chokhmah and Nevuah. One is prophecy. He said, I think we spoke about it last week. How do people, right, decide how to live their lives? What is right, what is wrong? What is right, what is wrong? Constantly questions come up. Right? Gay relationship. Is it good? It's not. Who makes that decision? Supreme Court? Human beings? Who makes, or let's abortion? Yes, abortion, no abortion. I mean, and constantly in life, we are encountering situations and questions that need to be decided. What is the yardstick? How do we decide what is right, what is wrong? How you get yourself a position on issues that come up. Like, for instance, now it's a very hot issue, gay relationships. I think Michelle Obama was speaking. I read in the news. She was talking to some Hollywood producers, and she was commenting them that in all the shows that said they're educating America to be used to this fact that there are different structures of family. There are families that are father and mother, and there are families otherwise. And she's, is this right? Well, yes, no. How do we make a decision? What is right, what is wrong? Right? You see, what is for sure wrong is that you cannot leave these kind of ethical questions and things that have to do with the structure of our societies to human beings. Supreme Court cannot make these kind of decisions because anything that it's human beings decide, it could change. It could change, depends on all kinds of factors. People change positions. Nazi Germany came into power in a democratic way. People voted the Nazi party, right? It was democratic elections. After they gained power, then they changed the system, and it became dictatorship. But they were elected. People in Greece you have, I think, Marxist, whatever type of government. People decided. Right? It doesn't mean it's right. And you see, people could change their minds. A thing that they decide now, tomorrow they could change their minds. Like my Rosh Yeshiva always, Weinberg used to talk about abortion. That there was a time that all over the civilized world, abortion was considered like murder. Then what happened now? Now you have pro-choice, pro-life. People change their positions. Settling disputes by making, going to the center of the city, and whoever shoots first is right, whatever, that was an accepted norm, at least in the West. And they changed it, right? Anything that has to do with what human beings feel is right or wrong, it's temporary. It could change easily. And that's why this is not absolute and it cannot be right. Right? So that's why we need divine, right? We need divine intervention, right? That's why we need the Torah. If a person believes just that the Kadosh Baruch Hu created the world, right? It's not enough, right? Obviously, this Creator has to give us some guidelines how He expects us to live our lives. So Malbim says that he says Efshar lahagia le'emet, we could come to the truth through three ways. One is wisdom and prophecy. That's why it says Shlomo HaMelech was the wisest person, and as we said, he had Ruach HaKodesh. Two, derech mesorah me'abba, traditions that we get from our, we believe in Torah because our father told us, right? And the father from his father, etc. We have a Mesorah. Moshe kibel Torah misinai, Umsara liYoshua, right? Moshe Rabbeinu gave, it has been a chain, a tradition. The father would not lie to his sons, right? So another source of coming to truth, it's if we have that unaltered truth that was transmitted from generation to generation. That's why Malbim says, right, that it says Shlomo, that's the Chokhmah Nevuah, Ben David, that he had the tradition from his father. And then the third one, Malbim says, it's through trials and errors, and that's Melech Israel. That when Shlomo Melech he was a king that practiced, right? As we said, the Melech is the one that puts the Torah values and Torah ethics into practice. So what he writes here, it's a result of all the above, right? It was divinely inspired. The teachings that he's going to teach us for life, the ethics and the way to live our lives in Sefer Mishlei has three distinguished sources. Right? First of all, it's Shlomo HaMelech, it's his wisdom and prophecy, Ruach HaKodesh. Secondly, he had the traditions that he got from his father, his Ben David. And then he is also a Melech. He was a king that put this, that these are practical. This is not just some theories that, just are like in academics that, was not practiced in actual society. So this all gives credibility to what he's going to be teaching us. Mishlei Shlomo ben David, as we said, Melech Israel, Ladat Chochma u'musar lehavin imrei bina. He says, I'm going to be teaching you Ladat Chochma u'musar. Lehavin imrei bina is alluding to Chochma Bina, and that we spoke about it last week, that Chochma is, we said, it's information, it's wisdom. Bina, it's what we infer from what we learned. It's our addition, our insights to it. You remember the example that we discussed last week was that Chochma would be, if you want to open a screw, you need a screwdriver. Screwdriver in your toolbox, that's how you open a screw, right? Bina would be that you go a bit deeper. See, how does it work? How does a screwdriver work? Right? You see the physics, how it works, and you say, okay, it doesn't have to be a screwdriver. I could do the same thing with dime. This is Bina. This is my contribution. And then, right, the most important thing we discussed was that. That's judgment. Judgment, knowing what kind of information, when it comes to be useful and should be practiced. Malbim says that Chochma Musar, what Shlomo HaMelech is telling us is the following. Ladat Chochma Musar, Lahavin Imre Bina, Malbim explains, Haderech HaYechida Ligbor Al Yetzer Hara is Torah. Right? We know the only, I think we discussed it last week, that the most important thing that the HaKadosh Baruch Hu has created in the world is Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. I mean, it's also good for the lawyers to make a living from all these, what Yetzer Hara causes in different ways. But in reality, if not for Yetzer Hara, if not for evil inclination, we won't have any purpose being in this world, right? And HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given really the only way a person would be able to control his Yetzer Hara and to use it properly is through Torah. Hashem says Torah is a tavlin. Torah teaches us how to use this world, right, properly. That's what Torah is. Torah is how to use all what Hashem has created in this world properly, and all these Yetzer Haras that Hashem has created, they come in handy. Right? Yetzer Hara, without Yetzer Hara, the world would not exist. The question is how to contain it and how to use it appropriately. This is where the Torah, right? Torah teaches us how to live with Yetzer Hara in a constructive manner. So Malbim says, Haderech HaYechida Ligor Al Yetzer Hara, the Torah is a tavlin, and he says Chochma is really deciding between two opposites, two contrasts, what is the appropriate measure to go. For instance, you see examples that, the Shlomo HaMelech says, he says like, a person could be, let's say, anger. Let's talk about that. Anger could be the biggest Yetzer Hara. So a person, is anger destructive? It could be destructive. But anger is fire. And usually people that do have that temper, if they contain it properly, they're going to accomplish a lot. So it's like, sometimes you need to exert authority. Sometimes you need to pretend that you're angry, etc. But you see that proper measure, right? How much of something is appropriate in what ways, to what extent to to control it and to contain it, etc. This is, Malbim says, this is Chokhmah. Shlomo HaMelech says, Ladat Chokhmah Musar is what? It's Likbor al Yetzer Hara, for instance. Right? For instance, let's say, overeating, it's a very bad midah. It's asur. It's forbidden. The Torah tells us, we have to be very careful about our health. Right? So a person would want to, let's say, to go on a diet. Could you use on Shabbat? No. Right? There are, you see, you could have a good intention, but how to implement that, etc. It would take. You need Torah guidelines of do's and don'ts. Anger, or how you treat money. Is it being stingy, being overspending? Both of them are two extremes that are bad midot that need to be controlled. You need to find that to fine tune and to come to the exact measure of each midah. How much and when could it be used, right? And it goes in everything. It's love. You have to love your kids, but on the other hand, love without discipline is cruelty. How to create tiferet in Kabbalah? They talk about chesed gvura. Chesed is compassion, giving, etc. Gvura is discipline. Both of them, to an extreme, are destructive. Chesed, if a person just gives and gives and gives without any discipline, is cruelty. Right? You need chesed and you need gvura. You have to combine them, and then it becomes tiferet. It's beautiful. How exactly, right? To have the exact measure of how much love, how much discipline. This is what exactly the chokhmah is. Malbim says, right? Chokhmah is the haminun and nachon ben, to have the proper measure. So therefore, Shlomo HaMelech is telling us that we need to, all the midot that we have, all the characteristics that we have, we need the proper guidance of how much of it to use when. For instance, a very good example that we see, it's by, the Torah tells us that it's asur for a person to show favoritism between his kids. Where do we see that from? Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov Avinu, right? He showed favoritism to Yosef. And we see what were the consequences. That caused, the Gemara says, if a person differentiates between his kids and shows them different amount of love, etc., he causes exile and galut. Because, this thing that Yaakov Avinu, he made this like in a golden thing for Yosef, caused jealousy between his kids, and that caused that Bnei Israel ultimately went to galut. So that's wrong, right? But we do see that after all what happened in Mitzrayim, after the favoritism that Yaakov Avinu showed Yosef HaTzadik, caused galut. In Mitzrayim, when Yaakov Avinu is giving brachot to his grandchildren, Ephraim and Manasseh, what does he do? He crosses his hands. He puts his right hand on the head of the younger boy, of Ephraim. What's going on? Didn't you learn your lesson? No. You see, the lesson is, there it was wrong. By Yosef, he should not have shown favoritism. But here, between Ephraim and Manasseh, he did need to do that. The circumstances were different. Here, Manasseh and Ephraim were totally different. Ephraim was very much more into the Egyptian society. So Yaakov Avinu had to really show him favoritism that he should not leave the fault. So in other words, you have a rule and you have exception. You see, again, you don't have any absolutes, right? Everything you have, you need the Torah guidance to guide you to know exactly which midah is applied when. Okay? This is the chokhmah of Shlomo HaMelech. It says that Navi tells us Yaakov Avinu was ish emet, right? Yaakov Avinu was a man of truth. And this is the man of the truth that is able to deal with Lavan, that was a crook, and with Esau, etc., etc. This man of truth knows when to manipulate the truth also. But you see, I hope you get the message. You see, it really takes a master of truth to go that, sometimes, yes, you could have white lies. Sometimes you could have, it's not absolute. And that's why you need, there could be a lot of gray areas that would take this. This is, Mishle says, Malbim says, this is chokhmah. It takes a chokhmah of Torah to see really exactly which midah, right, which characteristic, in what dosage should be used in what kind of in circumstances. And this is, as we said, this is Melech. Melech is somebody that takes the Torah values and he practices it in the society, right? And that brings us maybe to our next class about Yehoshua. We have 20 more minutes to switch to Yehoshua. That another part of Navi that we do Monday nights. That you see, Moshe Rabbeinu was giving the theory. Moshe Rabbeinu was not the one who took Bnei Israel into the promised land. Who took Bnei Israel into promised land was Yehoshua. Moshe Rabbeinu taught all the theories to Yehoshua, and then Yehoshua was really the one that put it in practice. We have the same thing with Yosef and the other tribes. You see, Yosef HaTzadik why was so Yaakov Avinu so, he was depressed when he thought for years he could not take, he never actually was consoled when they told him that Yosef died. Till he found him. Because Yosef was more than someone of the tribes. Yosef was the one tribe that was supposed to take all the teachings of Yaakov Avinu and all the tribes and bring it right into the real world. Right? So because the Torah that we learn needs to come into practice. So a person that just sits and learns the whole day, he's not practicing the Torah. It comes, you need, when you go to the workforce, when you go to start, you have to work to earn a living, you get married, etc. This is when the Torah comes into practice. So Yehoshua had all the theory from Moshe Rabbeinu, and he was the one that really was supposed, after Moshe Rabbeinu passed on, to bring all that Torah into practice in Eretz Israel. And in Sefer Yehoshua we see that after Moshe Rabbeinu died, Vayomer Hashem el Yehoshua, right, HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes to Yehoshua bin Nun and tells him, Moshe avdi met, right, va'ata kum avorot hayarden. The Abarbanel says that Yehoshua was in a deep depression. He was so close to Moshe Rabbeinu that when Moshe Rabbeinu was gone, Yehoshua was like, all depressed. Abarbanel says, Yehoshua, after, and he totally was paralyzed. That's the reason why Sefer Yehoshua starts with a lot of chizuk, right? That HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells him, Kum, avor et hayarden. Yehoshua, it's, you have, the Midrash says that a person, empathy is everything. Empathy. If you want to be effective with people, you have to understand to empathize with their feelings. Without that, you cannot mobilize them. You cannot really get them going. It's so important. This is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what he does. Hashem is like, Yehoshua, I understand your pain. I understand your mentor, Moshe Rabbeinu, is gone, and comes and gives him chizkut 3 times. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells him, Chazak ve'ematz, rak chazak ve'ematz, nishmor asu v'chol HaKadosh, right? Because you see, empathy is everything. Whoever we work with, right? If we don't empathize with them, we are not going to be effective with getting. It's husband and wife, parents to children, in any situation. If you don't understand people, the feelings of people that you are associating with, we are not going to be able to be a good leader and bringing people to do right what you're supposed to do. We learn from HaKadosh Baruch Hu that he first empathizes with Yehoshua, and then right he helps him carry on. There is a beautiful story about this empathy. It has to do with. I've said this story many times in different contexts, but it's also very befitting here. In Yerushalayim, in the olden days, in the very religious neighborhood, like near Mea Shearim, etc., there was this guy that had an ice cream store, and he would not close. He had a lot of customers on Fridays, and he would not close the door, right after, before sunset. And everybody used to go and, scream at him and curse him out, Shabbat, Shabbat. Nobody was effective. Rabbi Aryeh Levin, the tzaddik of Yerushalayim, right, one Friday, he goes, he gets dressed in his Shabbat clothing, and he goes to the store, to this ice cream parlor, whatever it was. He goes to the end of the street. The guy was very surprised, but he's coming to his store with his big dish Shabbat, right? And he used to wear one of these shtreimels also, Rabbi Aryeh Levin. With the shtreimel and everything, comes in the store, takes a chair in the back of the store, and he sits there. And he's saying Tehillim, whatever. And meanwhile, the store is so crowded, customers coming and going, and the shopkeeper with one eye, he's watching what Aryeh Levin is doing. Right? When it was half an hour or something before it was mincha time, Rabbi Aryeh Levin, comes and leaves the store, and he tells the storekeeper, Shabbat Shalom, I want to go to mincha. He says, look, I heard from everybody who told me that you're mechalel Shabbat, and you don't close your store on Shabbat till late, this and that. I was wondering why. Now I came and I see you have so many customers. And Parnasah, it's not easy. And really it would take very strong will and emunah to come and close the store and kick out all the customers. Now I understand where you come from. But Shabbat is Shabbat. Right? He says Shabbat Shalom, and that's it. And he leaves the store. He leaves the store, and when Aryeh Levin goes a few steps, he looks back and he says there was a long line of customers outside the store. He sees the guy came out, closed the store, and that's it. And then later on, when he met Aryeh Levin, he says everybody used to come and scream Shabbos, Shabbos, and maybe even throw rocks at me. Right, and wasn't effective. But you see, you empathized with me. You understood my feeling, and that's why he was able to change. So here we learn from Moshe Rabbeinu. You could use this practice a lot when you are an employer and you have employees, when you are parents, when it comes to educating our kids, etc. It's so important to understand their feelings. Right? I know you don't want to go to sleep. I know you want to this and that, but bedtime is a bedtime. That understanding, the empathy, in psychology also they will tell you, it really does wonders. Here also we see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes to Yehoshua, which is down, Abarban El says, and he gives him chizuk, kum avorat hayarden, right? He gives him the mission. Come and you're going to cross the Jordan River. You, right, to the land that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't have the zechut to cross. Kol makom asher tidroch kav raglechem bo lachem netativ. Right? What all the promises I gave Moshe Rabbeinu, I'm going to fulfill through you. And he gives the boundaries. Mahamidbar va'levanon hazeh va'ad nahar hagadol nahar prat. Right? He gives all the boundaries from right Mahamidbar va'levanon. Right? Midbar could be referring to Sinai desert, Lebanon in the north, Ad nahar hagadol, and you have the Jordan and the Prat on the east side, and Kol Eretz Hachitim va'ad hayom hagadol. Yom HaGadol is the Mediterranean. Mevu HaShomesh yu yihi gevulachem. Right, these are your boundaries, and he tells him, nobody, I promise you, nobody, right, you are going to be better off than Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu had a lot of mutinies and a lot of problems that he had Korach, Datan v'Aviram, etc. Yehoshua never didn't have any of that. And it's Hashem's promise. He says nobody is going to, chazak, and he says, the same way I was with Moshe, I'm going to be with you. Lo arpecha, I'm not going to leave you. Chazak ve'ematz, 3 times. It should be this chazaru baruch. The Syrians say chazak ve'ematz. We say chazaru baruch, but the Syrian Jews say chazak ve'ematz. Chazak ve'ematz. Be strong. Ki ata tanchil etam. You are going to be giving out this land, right, to the Jews that I promised their fathers. Rak chazak ve'ematz me'od lishmor la'asot k'cholak u'torah asher. But he tells him, while you are going to be the one who is accomplishing and doing and conquering, you cannot leave Torah study. You need, even when you are in the life of action and out of the Beit Midrash, you cannot, a Jew cannot function properly without learning Torah. A Jew cannot, you see, there are studies that this Jewish genius is diminishing. There are studies that, you see right now, there is no proportion of how many Jews, prize Nobel winners. The Jews are totally out of proportion. If I'm not mistaken, something like maybe 25-30% of the recipients of Nobel Prizes are Jewish. And the Jews are what percentage of the world population? But you see, they are saying this Jewish genius comes from thousands of years of studying the Talmud and all the, but not that they are, because it stays, even if after, for some time after they leave it. But now they are saying it's, because a Jew cannot be a Jew without learning Torah. A Jew cannot really reach his potential, right, without studying the Torah. Not just for the in Beit Midrash, for everybody. Yes?
When, Albert Einstein, when he was about to die, in his end of life, they asked him if he were to go back, what would you do? And he said, I wish I learned Gemara.
Yeah, that's what he said, yes. I'm not surprised.
Anti-religion, by the way. He was an atheist.
It's not so clear. When I was in Hebrew U, I had one of a poster, they were quoting him, that says that deeper he goes into science, the greater he finds God. That was one of the posters that I had in the dormitory in Mount Scopus, Hebrew U. The art I've followed about him, but he had certain beliefs, for sure he had. But Anyway, so here it's, as we said, Yehoshua is the one. He's the warrior. He's going to conquer the land and to divide. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells him, "Rak chazak ve'ematz me'od lishmor la'asot kechol ha'torah kasher tzivcha Moshe Avdi." Right? Whatever Moshe Rabbeinu, don't go right or left from what he taught you. Leman taskil b'chol asher telech. He's saying, what is leman taskil? In order that you should have the smartness in running the country, in your business, in anything. There he's saying leman taskil b'chol asher telech. It's not just learning for the sake of piety and knowing the halachot, etc. Hashem is talking to Yehoshua. Leman taskil b'chol asher telech lo yamush sefer haTorah hazeh mipicha, and the Torah, you should not leave studying the Torah from your own mouth. V'hagita bo yomam v'layla, and you need yomam v'layla leman tishmor la'asot, in order that you should, as we said, taskil. It's going to give you proper thinking and the proper, the clarity of thinking in all the decisions you make. Taskil v'chol asher telech. And then you're going to be successful, right? So you see that's one of the parts of the debate that is going on in Israel. Now it's the same thing. The religious Jew, they say, like, our Torah learning benefits the entire nation. If not everybody, you see, for everybody, you're going to see the Gemara says, lo yamush, right? It says, lo yamush sefer haTorah hazeh b'picha v'ketub yom v'layla. So the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. He says that really, if a person, every Jew needs to learn Torah day and night. That's what it says. But the minimum is, if a person cannot, when he says that this Shema twice, saying Shema, the Shema Israel in the morning and at night, this also, but the Eved, this would be kind of that minimum injunction. I always, a lot of college guys, I talk to them. There was somebody that just called me from NYU. I told him, look, no matter how much pressure you have, right, make sure that don't just say Shema to the Shema. Learn a little bit, even if it's a few minutes. Go on internet, whatever it is. You need that dosage. This is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling Yehoshua. Leman taskil b'chol asher telech. When you do that, you're going to have hatzlacha, because the Jew's brain works like, perfectly when he has Talmud Torah. And he says when you do this, Az tatzliach et derachecha v'az taskil. You are going to have hatzlacha in whatever you're doing. This is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu emphasizes with Yehoshua. And obviously another thing that we see here very clearly, that the Creator Borei Olam is telling Yehoshua that the right that we have on this beautiful land of Israel is from Hashem. He says, you should tell, right? Ki ata tanchil et ha'am hazeh asher nishba'ti la'avotam latet lahem. Hashem is talking, right? Hashem is saying, I'm the one, right? I swore and promised. This is the promised land that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave to Klal Israel. And you see, this is talking to us now, 21st century, United Nations, Palestinians, etc., etc. Right? Ultimately, if we don't have the conviction, we cannot convince the world. We have to realize that the right that we have on Eretz Israel is only from Hashem. If we don't believe in the Torah, we don't have any right on the land of Israel. Then the Palestinians are right, and we have to leave the land. This is the absolute truth. You see, when I was in Hebrew U, I have told you this story so many times. I was 18 years old. I was a student at Hebrew U. I had to work. I wasn't an Israeli citizen. I had to work. I was working in a hotel. as a receptionist to pay for my tuition. And the same in a dormitory that I spoke about in Mount Scopus, the college dorm, I had the same floors of Arabs, Israeli Arab students. They were there on full scholarship from the Israeli government. I had to work for tuition and everything. I was, maybe partial scholarship. And we used to share the same kitchen. So this Arab, Israeli, Machshamo, would tell him, what are you guys doing here? Where you're standing, it's my land. Go back to Iran. Go back this is my land. All right? And you see, if not for the Torah, he's right. What right do we have on the land of Israel, if not what we just learned that Hashem tells Yoshua? Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu, tells Moshe and Yoshua the same thing. I gave this land to you. And what we have to do is what Menachem Begin did. Right? And he took a Bible, to the United Nations in 1970. 8, 9? I don't know. What was it? Was it Prime Minister?
Before 26.
No, I see. I was in America already. So it was after 75. I came to America 75, August. So this was a year he was Prime Minister. They had this resolution, Zionism is racism, I don't know if you remember. So then Begin, Zichrono Livracha, went to the United Nations, took a Bible, he said, the right that we have on this land is from this book. And he believed in it. He believed in it. Ben Gurion didn't believe in it. But even Ben Gurion, it's a famous, you could Google it, when the British came to, in 1920s, I think, there was a debate, the British were ruling in Israel, the Arabs were saying it's theirs, the Jews. So this British committee, Pill Committee it was called. They asked Ben Gurion, what do you say to them? They're saying this is their land, you're coming and grabbing it. So Ben Gurion said, no, the Bible says that this is our land. So the British guy says, but you're not religious, you don't believe in this. He says, I don't, but Jews do. Yeah, so we just learned that, this is, we got up to Bezrat Hashem Pasuk Yud. Questions, comments? Arvit?
Who wrote Yehoshua?
Vale? Who?
Yehoshua
Himself.
Oh, Yehoshua.
Yeah, we are going to see later. Every part of Tanakh somebody else wrote it. Torah we know. Nevi'im, Ktuvim, part of it, I think Yehoshua is Yehoshua. It's either Yehoshua or Shmuel, one of them. Yeah. Okay, fine. Kaddish. Okay, fine. Huh?
شلومو بن داوید ملك إسرائيل داوید یا شلوموس؟
نه شلوموس. ولی اینکه با صحبت کردیم چرا اینجوری گفته؟ چرا هر صداشو میگه؟ ولی اونجا که
خودشه که
آره.
نه که داوید. به مقصود داوید کاری
اونجا نه اونجا خودش داره میگه. ولی اینکه ترین گفته گاهان قشنگ توضیح میده واسه که 3 تا کتاب در حقیقت میشه. اوکی کسی خود ارویت بخونه بالا ارویت. مثل خود ریفرشمنت هم هست.
خزاک باروخ.
اوکی